Critics slamming the New York Times for this piece yesterday. At the height of deadly clashes on the Gaza border with Israel. The headline reading, Israel kills 58 and injures over 1,300 by gunfire at Gaza border. But the article failed to mention the Hamas militants disguised as protesters who Israel blames for firing up tensions until the 42nd paragraph of its main story last night. Howie Kurtz is a Fox News media analyst and host of Media Buzz and has some thoughts on that this morning. Howie?
You know, this is a problem for journalism that goes beyond the New York Times. Yes, we can debate the level of the Israeli response. Yes, we can debate the role of President Trump's decision to move the embassy. But this was a confrontation that was orchestrated by Hamas, knowing full well there would be casualties for propaganda purposes. And here's what's often either left out or minimized in the coverage, Sandra. For example, Hamas sent some women toward the fence knowing they would make more sympathetic victims. For example, these supposedly unarmed protesters, some of them had explosives and incendiary kites and burning tires to attack the Israeli side. And also that Israel had dropped leaflets in the area warning the Palestinians to stay away from the fence. But Hamas, again, wanted this confrontation.
And then there is this, the cover of the Daily News here in New York with a smiling Ivanka Trump on the cover, titled Daddy's Little Ghoul, 55 slaughtered in Gaza, but Ivanka all smiles at Jerusalem embassy unveil. Your thoughts there?
I find that cover to be utterly pathetic. We know that the Daily News hates President Trump, hates Jared and Ivanka, apparently isn't a big fan of Israel as well, but still, to single them out. And others have also questioned, oh, why were they there? They're just Trump family members. Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump are the highest-ranking Jewish Americans in the White House. Of course they would be there, and of course they would be emphasizing what they see as the administration's policy, which, by the way, many previous presidents have talked about but not actually done, in moving the embassy to Jerusalem. But the other thing here is the split-screen coverage, the pictures, regardless of the headlines. Hamas gets, you know, the celebration at the dedication of the embassy and all the violence at the protest, which, again, I think Hamas clearly precipitated, and that makes the Israeli side look bad because when you just glance at it, you don't realize, and it's incumbent on journalists to point this out, that this was a confrontation that Hamas wants the violence. It sounds counterintuitive, wants casualties because that helps it paint Israel as some kind of military thuggish nation.
Well, we heard from Nikki Haley just a few moments ago, Howie, talking about yesterday's opening of the embassy in Jerusalem, saying it was a cause for celebration for the American people. She said moving the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem was the right thing to do. It reflects the will of the American people. Listen to her here.
Those who suggest that the Gaza violence has anything to do with the location of the American embassy are sorely mistaken. Rather, the violence comes from those who reject the existence of the State of Israel in any location. Such a motivation, the destruction of a United Nations member state, is so illegitimate as to not be worth our time in the Security Council, other than the time it takes to denounce it.
I want to get your final thoughts there, as we just heard from Ambassador Nikki Haley.
Well, I can't quite agree that the decision to move the embassy had nothing to do with the violence, because it did infuriate the Palestinian side, and that was a risk that President Trump took. At the same time, the proper response to that is not to send thousands of protesters to a volatile border fence area, armed to some degree with explosives and incendiary kites, as I said. And so I really think that there's a danger here for Western journalists to simply say, well, Israel shot all these people, when clearly that was the response that Hamas wanted. And by the way, Israel voluntarily pulled out of Gaza 13 years ago, turned it over to Hamas to run, so it wouldn't be an occupying military power. And this is the kind of thing that Hamas continues to do.
Interesting moment at that UN Security Council meeting. She concluded by saying, may the next 70 years be ones of strength, of hope, and of peace. Howie Kurtz, thank you.